Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're ready for a little bit of a longer video today. Today is going to be yearly favorites. So I already did a video where I talk about my all-time favorites. Some of these products I'm gonna mention were also in that video, but a lot of these were not in that video. So I hope that you are ready for this. I have a lot to talk about. These are all products that I tried this year that I think are very good. Even if they don't make it into my all-time favorites, they're still very, very good products. And I am looking forward to happily blabbing about them to you. I do include some products that I tried at the very end of last year just because, you know, I tried them so far at the end of the year, they probably didn't make it into a whole lot of videos at the end of last year. So if it was something I tried super late in the year, last year, I put it in this video as well. So the way I like to do these videos is I do not pick favorites from every category. For instance, I did try a couple of foundations this year, but nothing that really blew my mind. And same with primers, but I do have a new favorite concealer to talk about. I cannot stop using this product, so I've been mentioning it a lot. So no surprises in this video. So this is the Hydrating Concealer from Neutrogena. It's one of those products that comes in a little twist up stick. It has some hydrating product in the middle and then the actual concealer on the outside. It is very, very smooth, really, really easy. Like, it's not one of those products you're going to need to apply to a brush first and put it on. You can just swipe it under your eye or wherever you need it. However, this is not going to be for everybody. This is not a super high coverage product. This is just for adding a little bit of smoothing to the under eye, a little bit of color correction. If you have like really dark circles or bad acne you're trying to cover, this is not going to do it. The thing that's so nice about it is the texture. It's just so smoothing. And even though it's very, very smooth, it's not super dewy. So actually for me, this has replaced the Glassy Stretch Concealer as one of my favorites. I prefer how not dewy this is in comparison to that one. Just a beautiful satin finish, and I think it's pretty fantastic. It's always extra satisfying to find something that's really, really good at the drugstore. Or I think in this case, I think I got mine at Target. There's a few shades. I wear the shade Fair 10. This year I tried a lot of bronzer. It was kind of a new category for me to explore. I mean, I've had it obviously in my collection, but I just wasn't that excited about it. And for some reason, I tried a lot of bronzers this year, and several of them were very, very good. So first, let's talk about this one from L'Oreal. This is the Infallible bronzer. I really dislike the packaging, but if you can get past the packaging, I really recommend you try it. It has the most wonderful, smooth powder bronzer. Oh, it's just so slippy and delightful, especially if you're looking for a very nice soft matte product. This doesn't have any sort of glow in it, and it's pretty seamless. it's kind of perfect actually, and it comes in a lot of different shades. The shade I have, they already discontinued. This is the shade 200. But it seems that the rest of the shades are still available. The bronzer that I'm wearing today is the one from RMS. I know I'm not the only one to rave about this. I love this bronzer. So I have the shade Beachwalk Betty, which is the lightest shade. Now this one does have some glowiness to it. You can see in comparison to the one from L'Oreal. And it also is a little bit pink, or even a little bit red in comparison to that one from L'Oreal. But it makes it just a very natural color for me. And this kind of baked gelée formula, you don't really get a lot on your brush, so it's hard to overdo this product, which I really appreciate with bronzers. I much prefer something that is hard pressed, just to help avoid the overdoing it issue. This is not the only product from RMS I have in this video. RMS was kind of one of the brands of the year for me. I discovered several things from them that I really love, including their other bronzer. This is such a unique product. It only comes in one shade. I'm not sure why they chose to do that, but this is not what I would consider a true cream bronzer. It's actually kind of a pressed oil. So, you know, definitely not for everyone, but I love the way that this looks on the skin. And this is, and you can see how sheer it is. But this one definitely leans red. And I've even used it as a blush, but since it's like a pressed oil, it's perfectly seamless on the skin. So I've just never tried anything like it before, and I thought it was delightful. This is the Buriti bronzer from RMS. One more bronzer. Do you know, I actually haven't even had a chance to review this yet. This is going to be in my upcoming speed reviews video for the month. Oh, okay, so the Gucci bronzer. First of all, yes, incredibly expensive, but look at that packaging. That is kind of, I feel like, an heirloom product. This is one of those products that, you know, I'll finish the product, but I'll always keep the packaging and use it for something. It has a nice mirror. That's what the Gucci bronzer looks like. And you can lift up the product and there's a brush underneath, which admittedly I've never even opened and tried. I don't use the brush. So I picked it up in shade 1, which is the fairest shade. And this is another cool leaning pinky bronzer. None of these are super warm. So they are all perfect just wonderful for me. I love them. This one doesn't have any glowiness to it either. It is a soft matte. Okay, let's talk blush. Let's go with the RMS one first. So I actually picked up this little quad. Oh no, this isn't the right one. I have a couple things from RMS. This little quad. It's called the Lip to Cheek Glow Quad, and it has their Champagne Rosé Luminizer, and then 3 of their blush shades. This is Lost Angel, Beloved, and Spell. And it's the shade Spell that I want to talk about. I think that this is so delightful. I did mention this in my winter blushes video. This is one of those kind of desaturated color. It's kind of hard to nail down what color that it actually is, but it's very, very natural looking on my skin tone. You can kind of see what it looks like there blended out. It's a beautiful thin cream with just kind of a natural radiance to it. No glitters or anything. That radiance that you see is just from the fact that it's a cream, but it doesn't stay sticky, but it sets down. Just a beautiful everyday blush. Okay, the other one from RMS is the one that I'm wearing. This is the shade Maiden's Blush in their powder blush formula. This is what they call the ReDimension Hydra Powder Blush. Now these blushes are glowy and they have a decent amount of pigment to them. Put that under Spell. And that is a beautiful kind of rosy toasty shade, isn't it? I love it. I just love the way that looks. The pigment is very smooth, and while it is glowy, it's not glittery. I feel like I'm talking really fast. I'm just trying not to talk too much about each product. I have a lot of things to talk about. So something that actually came into my collection, I think it was at the end of last year. This Bobbi Brown highlighter, I've been using it as a glowy blush, and I have really fallen in love with it. I mean, I loved it when I first tried it, but I keep reaching for this. I just love it. So this is the shade Sunset Glow in the highlighting powder. Obviously on me, that would be too dark as a highlighter, but it is a stunning blush. Since it is a highlighter, it really blends out into like this most beautiful sheer glowy pink. Sometimes sheer glowy pinks can be icy. This is not icy. It's just kind of perfect if you like a sheer glowy blush. And these I think are overpriced. I got mine on sale. Bobbi Brown does have sales on the website. So this is something that you're interested in. I would wait for a sale. And they sell this brand at all sorts of places. So, you know, I would hunt down where it's on sale. But saying all that, it is beauteous. It's glowy but not metallic on my cheeks, which is, you know, sometimes the problem I find with glowy things is they look almost metallic, and this does not. The whole reason I tried this was because Kat from Beauty News, I think her channel name is Kitschnitch, she was trying to find a dupe for a glowy MAC blush that had been long been discontinued, and this was the one that she found. I thought it looked so beautiful on her, I had to try it, and I must agree, it's lovely. Something else that I just fell in love with this year were these tints from Etude House. So Etude House is a K-beauty brand. This is the Dear Darling Water Tint. I now have it in 3 shades. So initially they sent me one in PR, and then I found 2 more shades at TJ Maxx. They've been showing up there, which I thought was so cool. So this particular shade is called Cherryade, and I have been loving this as a red blush. I think that initially it's more intentioned as a lip stain, but I love it as a cheek stain. So when I use it, I do carefully like get as much off the little applicator as possible. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of make a puddle of it on my hand and then use a brush. I'll pick it up with a brush and apply it that way. It's because it is a stain, it wants to set down pretty quickly, and that way it keeps it from becoming patchy. I actually wore it last night. It was beautiful. I love this kind of, and even though it looks kind of crazy right now, when you sheer it out, it's just a very, very sheer red, and it's so lovely. It smells like popsicles. And lately I've been thinking I wanted to go on a hunt for a red blush. Well, actually this one, I think I found it. I love it. Let's talk about face palettes for a second, and then we'll go back to highlighters. So face palettes, for years, I couldn't care any less. All of a sudden this year, I wanted to try them. So now I have several in my collection. All of them were lovely. Like, I really enjoyed them this year, but these 2 are definitely top 2 for me. So starting with this year's Hourglass palettes, I think last year I included them in my favorites. Well, this year I think they did even better, especially with the tone of the bronzer. Usually their bronzers run pretty warm. This one actually was more neutralish, way more easy for me to pull off. I love the blush shades. And I'm kind of rushing through this because I know I've talked about this a lot. You guys probably get tired of hearing about the Hourglass palettes because they end up in a lot of people's favorites. But for me, the true stars of the palette are the 2 powders. I use them constantly. I use the lighter one under my eyes and this one all over my face. They're not setting powders. They're glowy finishing powders, and they are so lightweight that you don't really notice them when you put them on. That's why it took me so long to appreciate them, I guess. But their effect is really noticeable in the daylight. It kind of applies a filter. Look, that's what it looks like. And when you finally see it, it's very noticeable that, ooh, it makes your makeup just look that much better. It's like an extra polishing step. And now I never skip this step. I think it's wonderful. The other palette that I have been oohing and eyeing over is the new Auric palette. And while I actually love every single product in here, my favorite is the highlighter. So let's see, I will end there. Let's start over here with the bronzer. It's a little bit more of a stiff formula, and again, I really like it. It means you're not going to pick up too much product. My favorite way to apply it is with a stipple brush like this one. This is a discontinued brush from e.l.f., but you know, any sort of a stipple brush like this will do the job. And it's the same formula with the blush. A little bit more stiff. I actually find that I prefer to apply this with my fingers. It applies very, very beautifully. And this is one of those blushes where at first I apply just a little bit and then it kind of disappeared. So this is one that I actually like to put on pretty heavily and then it really stays. So I like to apply a lot of that blush. I think it's just a gorgeous dusty rose color. This over here is the mixing balm. You can mix it with any of these to make these glowy. You can even just put it on your skin as a base for underneath your foundation to give your foundation more of a lit from within glow. This is quite unique. I've never had anything like it, and I really, really like mixing it with the blush. But let's talk about my favorite product from the palette, which is the highlighter. It is the highlighter I'm wearing, and I can't stop wearing it. I keep trying to figure out how I want to explain how this highlighter looks. So like most creams, it wants to melt right into the skin, but it doesn't look wet like some other highlighters I'm gonna be mentioning later. It looks more like a glaze. That was the word I was looking for because I was putting it on. I'm like, frosty is not the right term. And generally when we're talking about highlighters, frosty is not good. It just means something that's too bright, right? But this has kind of a glazed looking effect on my skin that I just love. You can make it much more intense by adding the balm to it. I actually tend to enjoy it by itself. It has kind of more of a satiny glazy finish. It's hard to describe. When you add the balm though, it gets more of that wet look. I know this is so expensive. Same with that Hourglass palette, but I'm very, very happy that I enjoyed it as much as I do for how much money I spent on it. Okay, let's talk about those wet looking highlighters that I was mentioning. I tried several balmy highlighters this year and I loved them all. I love the one from RMS that I showed you in that little quad, and I love this one from L'Oreal, and I love this one from Chanel. So I did talk about in a speed reviews video how these are similar products that are not dupes for each other, but it's one of those things where I doubt anyone would know the difference by looking at you. They both give you a beautiful, wet, glass-like shine. This one from L'Oreal is a newer product and it came out in several shades. So I have the Lumi Le Glace in Glassy Pearl Eclat. So I know this also has different finishes as well. The difference from this one, I think, to the Chanel is that this one does have a little bit of glowy particles in it, where the other one really doesn't. So that's the L'Oreal. And then in the Chanel, this was a wish list product that my husband bought for me. I was very, very happy. I've been wanting to try it forever. This is the Baume Essentiel. This is the shade Sculpting. So you can see not the same shade at all, but they both have a very similar kind of glassy effect. And they both last longer on your cheeks than you would expect. Sometimes you expect creams like this to immediately wear off. That is not the case for me. I mean, they definitely do not set down. You could probably wipe them off easily, but if you don't touch it, they stay pretty well. I want to show you the other highlighters next to those. So let's get this one from Auric. So this is called Ghost Flower. You can see it's not as wet looking as those other creams. But I also want to show you the Champagne Rosé Luminizer from RMS because I love this too. Okay, so here's the Luminizer from RMS. This also looks glassy on the skin, but not as much as these two. I mean, look at those two. So, so glassy. Whereas this one's just a little bit more natural, and this one has a little bit of pearl to it to give it a little bit more of a glazed effect. I love them all. But I'm not done talking about highlighter. I do have a powder highlighter to mention, and I think this is one of the best things I tried this year. So from Fenty, this is the Light Diffusing Highlighter. I have the lightest shade, the shade Pretty Purlz. So I've talked about this a lot on my channel, just to repeat myself in case you haven't heard of this before. The reason why I think it is so fantastic is because it is softening on the skin, which all the time we talk about how highlighters, no matter what, if you've got texture or whatever, you know, it's going to reflect light in those areas and it can draw attention to those things. So this being a highlighter, I mean, it's still going to do that, but the formula also has smoothing qualities. Like it just kind of has a skin perfecting quality to it. And this one's very easy to build up if you prefer a more beaming highlighter, and very easy to tone down if you like just a little bit of shine. I think it's a delightful little product. You guys may know that I'm not much of a setting spray person. I often don't think that they do a whole lot, but I tried one this year that, yeah, it works. And I'm very sorry to tell you that it's from Charlotte Tilbury. This is her Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. It's kind of flawless. I am sorry to tell you that because it's expensive and I kind of get irritated with the brand. I do own products from Charlotte Tilbury, but the brand is sometimes very cringy, especially in their marketing. Like it just makes me not want to buy things from them, but this is truly a good product. So I don't want to waste this, but I want to show you how good the sprayer is. Oh my word, it's perfection. It's never gonna leave any little wet dots all over your face. And I can feel it setting my makeup, but it doesn't make my skin feel tight. Like it really is a long wearing product. I really, really enjoy it. It doesn't make me look too dewy like some setting sprays do. Only thing is the cost, and also it is pretty intensely scented. Something to keep in mind. Let's talk about lip products. So first I have to talk about what I'm wearing on my lips right now. This is from Milani. This is the Color Fetish Hydrating Lip Stain. I have the shade 130 Rose Rising. This seems very much like a K-beauty product, and it is actually made in Korea, so that tracks. When you first put it on, it's very glossy. I tend to actually completely wipe off the applicator so that I don't get too much. That way I have a lot more control. It is a very good stain. So where you put it, it's gonna be a stain. So I really like to very, very carefully apply it here. But one of the reasons it's so nice is because of how smooth the pigment is. You put it on and it's just a delightful experience. The pigment is very, very smooth. So it starts off glassy, kind of like I have it right now, but it wears off into a beautiful stain that for me has never been patchy looking and very long wearing. I kind of want Milani to come out with more colors, especially neutral colors. This is a beautiful product. So I tried a ton of tinted lip balm products this year, a lot. And I like most of them, but I think that this one from Nabla really stands out. For one thing, look at that packaging. So nice. This is what they call the Beyond Jelly Sheer Lipstick. Now, I don't think it's that sheer, actually. I'm not sure if that's the correct name for this, but I really like this shade. This is the shade Luz. I found myself reaching for it quite a bit. It leans cool on me, even though on the back of my hand right now it looks kind of pink. But it's just very comfortable. It's very nice. It has a nice glossy finish, but it's not messy. It's not goopy. It still maintains its shape when you try and roll it up like this. So it's not a super goopy product. And I don't mind the scent. The scent is pretty minimal. And these do go on sale. I got mine on sale at Ulta. I would definitely be willing to get more colors. I think it's lovely. Something I was very, very happy to see re-released this year are these from Revlon. These are the Shine Super Lustrous lipsticks. I purchased the whole range. I really, really like them. I have a whole lip swatching video for these, but I have a couple of my favorite shades here. This is the shade Glazed Mauve, which is definitely the most cool toned shade. And then I have the shade Spiced Wine, which is just a beautiful toasty shade that I really like to wear, but sometimes I can get turned off of lipsticks that are too pigmented that are this shade. The fact that these are on the sheer side makes them super wearable. They're buttery, they smell like vanilla, but they're not so buttery that they're messy. Like they still can be rolled up in the tube. Super comfortable. And I'm so glad that Revlon listened to their consumers and brought these back. I feel like they discontinued these right when tinted lip balm products were kind of coming in really in style. So they brought them back at just the right time. Something that I really, really enjoyed this year was this gloss from Clinique. So this is their Black Honey Gloss. And I hope that this is still available. It has kind of an odd applicator. That's what that looks like. But the reason why I like this so much is because it has pretty good pigmentation. You don't need a lot of this gloss. I mean, look at that glorious shade. Oh, but it's one of those glosses that has a little bit more stick to it. I know not everybody enjoys a sticky lip gloss, and this isn't the sort of sticky lip gloss that's uncomfortable. It's the sort of sticky gloss that will adhere to your lips really well and last longer than a lot of glosses will. And since the formula has, a little bit more heft to it, it's very nice and line filling, and it's very, very lovely. If you can hear my dog snoring, I am sorry. Gotta take a sip of my tea. Been talking so much. Okay, let's talk mascara before I talk eyeshadow. I have a lot to say about eyeshadow. So the one that I'm wearing today is one of the best ones I tried all year. This is the Tarte XL tubing mascara. Look at that. Sometimes tubing mascaras can be more on the gentle side. This gives great length and volume, and it washes off in those perfect little tubes that make tubing mascara so delightful. And it wears great because it's tubing mascara. It doesn't flake, it doesn't smudge. The wand looks like kind of a typical tubing mascara wand. This was a great find. I love it. Probably my second favorite mascara of the year was the Maybelline Sky High. This gives super long lengthened lashes and it wears really, really well. This is one you need to have a little bit of patience removing it. It really wants to stick to your lashes. So, you know, that's good or bad depending on what you want. I find that this is one that I can trust if I want to wear it for a long time. This is one where the hype is real. I know a lot of people have talked about this mascara. I think it is very, very good. And this one was a surprise favorite. So this is another tubing mascara, but this is the e.l.f. Lash Extender. So this is like one of the ones I think of that when you first open it, it is so wet. It gives kind of just kind of a lash tint effect on your lashes. Like at first, even though it washed off very well in typical tubing mascara form, it does, and it wears super well because it's a tubing formula. At first, I just wasn't that impressed with how it made my lashes look. But this is one of those mascaras that thickens up by the end of its life, and it turned into a absolutely gorgeous lengthening mascara that added just the right amount of volume. Like this, I'm trying to open it, but this is an old one. This was in my empties bin and it's gross, so I'm just gonna leave it closed. But this is one of those that gets really, really good at the end of its life. I had more than one person remark on my lashes when I was wearing this at the height of its goodness. So if you tried this and were just sad at how your lashes weren't that amazing, maybe pull it back out. I mean, I'm not encouraging people to use super old mascara. I don't use mascara past 6 months. But if you've had it for a few months, you know, maybe pull it out, try it out again, and you might be surprised. It might be perfect. Okay, now let's talk about eyeshadow. So in my all-time favorites video that I did earlier this month, I mentioned how this year was kind of the year of single shadows for me. I was doing an eyeshadow project where I was trying to use all my single shadows. I absolutely love that project, but it kind of made me neglect my eyeshadow palettes. My dog is running in her sleep. Which out of all years to neglect my eyeshadow palettes, this was kind of the worst year, because this year was the year that I tried a lot of bougie eyeshadow. What I told myself at the beginning of the year is like, I don't want to buy a ton of eyeshadow palettes. I just really want to buy the ones that I actually want to try. There's some formulas that had been on my wish list forever. I told myself I'm going to save up my YouTube money and I'm going to buy the expensive eyeshadow. So all of these palettes are actually high-end or luxury, which is very unusual for me, but you know, that is what I was trying this year. And they're all beautiful. They just didn't make it into my other favorites video because I didn't use them that much. Very sad. Let's talk about the one that I use the most, and it's because it got rolled into a project like right after I bought it, and I was so glad that it got rolled into a project because this is wonderful. And it is the one that I'm wearing on my eyes today. Can you guess? This is a Pat McGrath palette, and this is the original Mothership. When it comes to choosing a Mothership palette, I tend to really look at the mattes. She's going to have beautiful sparkly shades in all the palettes, so for me it's all about choosing mattes that I prefer. I did try another Pat McGrath palette this year. I think it's called the Sublime. This is the Subliminal, but the Sublime is the more warm-toned one. I ended up giving it to a friend. I just didn't enjoy the mattes as much in that palette. This, however, right up my alley. So for my look today, I have this through my crease, this on my outer corner, this as my eyeliner, this on my inner corner, and this one all over my lid for that beautiful wet looking sparkle. For me, this is an everyday palette, but as always, when I purchase something like Pat McGrath, I am buying it on sale. Even though I enjoy it, even though it's beautiful, I would agree with people that it is just plain overpriced. Now, I have enjoyed this palette immensely. I love the color story, but I don't ever want to pressure anybody to buy Pat McGrath because you can find similar color stories for less money. But I tried it this year and I loved it. Let's talk about the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. So people have been raving about this. I have a very positive feeling toward this, but for some reason, I just didn't reach for it like I thought I would this year. I'm still putting it in this video because it is beauteous and it's exactly right up my alley. I'm hoping though that I will use it more next year. Oops, sorry, I just kicked the camera. I love how the mattes are kind of desaturated. They're not super in your face. It's exactly the type of mattes I like to wear. I like how we have some peachy tones, more kind of grayish taupey tones. And then the shimmers are exactly what I like. They have like this one, which is very, very sparkly. I mean, like that's just very, very beautiful. But then you have this one called Sheen, where it's just a little bit of a sparkle. You know, just a little bit of glow. So I'm mentioning it because it's a really good palette, even though I didn't reach for it a ton. So something I have mentioned on my channel as being overpriced, but admittedly very good, is this little palette from Charlotte Tilbury. So this is the Super Nudes Easy Eye palette, and it is the one that just looks very, very basic and boring. However, it really is not. The colors might be. I do feel like there's some nuance, especially in these shades here, that, you know, you're not going to necessarily find that in a drugstore palette. But what makes this palette so delightful is the texture of the shades. So it's something between a matte and a satin. So they're not, and it's really noticeable if you try and compare it to a matte, for instance. You can tell these are definitely not true mattes. So like, look at this beautiful finish on this eyeshadow. It makes them very easy to blend, and it makes for a very not boring neutral eye look. I've been lately very drawn to matte eye looks or satin eye looks, and so this has been honestly a favorite. I've really liked it. Speaking of matte eye looks, this year I finally, on sale, picked up this one from Viseart. So this is the neutral palette, but it's in the petite version, which makes it not nearly as expensive as the big one. The Viseart matte formula is delightful. It can be a little bit powdery. I don't mind that. They blend so beautifully and lay so nicely on the eye. And I feel like they have just the right amount of pigment. They're not lightly pigmented like luxury eyeshadows can be, but they're not wow in your face like others can be either. They layer super well with each other. Like, they're just really, really nice. And I love this little matte eyeshadow palette. And I love how small it is. It's so cute. I'm not done with luxury eyeshadows. I tried a lot this year. I finally tried Elisa Eldred's eyeshadow palette. So this is the shade Fawn, which was her latest one. So as much as I enjoyed this, I mean, I really, really enjoyed this. I didn't put it in my favorites because I did not think it was perfect. I thought that these little kind of twinkle shades were a little bit disappointing. I know that she makes ones that are better than this, that are in other palettes. This one is definitely a very basic palette, and I knew that when I bought it. But the part that I like so much are the mattes again. Oh, the mattes. So she has several different formulas in her eyeshadow palettes, including for the matte. In this one, we have the Seamless Matte and the Velvet. I believe this is the Seamless Matte, and this is the Velvet. This is another one of the Seamless Mattes. See how smooth that pigment is? It is a very, very flattering texture on the lids. I created eye looks I absolutely love with this, and it was very easy. I love easy to use eyeshadow. I've mentioned it at many occasions. So I really, really enjoyed it, even though I didn't end up using it a ton. Kind of hoping to change that this next year. I really like it, so there's no reason why I shouldn't use it more often. Okay, 2 more still. Yeah, still going. So I tried Surratt this past year, and I wanted to try several of their products, but their products are so expensive. I decided to, in order to try the most things, I got this little palette that had 2 eyeshadows and a blush. The Surratt powders are really top tier. They have a lot of slip to them that make them, again, very, very flattering on your skin, especially if you have any sort of lines. Like, they just lay so nicely, so nicely. Both the blush and the eyeshadows. They are, however, very scented. That's kind of one thing that puts me off from the brand. I said it before and I'll say it again. I think it smells like classic CoverGirl. Initially when I bought it, I thought I was getting a matte and kind of a satin, but it turns out that they're both variations of like the satin. But oh my word, are these eyeshadows. I mean, look, oh my word. Oh, and that taupey shade. They blend like a dream. If you're after perfectly blendy eyeshadows, you will not be disappointed. They're just very expensive. Okay, so another one I tried was the YSL Couture Mini Clutch. I, of course, picked up Storadolls because I have a weakness for cool toned shades like this. Me, it actually is a little bit more peachy than super cool toned. I actually thought this had a similar formula to the Surratt. They have a lot of slip to them in the best way possible that makes it super blendy and lay very, very flatteringly on my eyes. I just don't want anyone to feel like, I mean, I'm putting these products in my favorites video, but I just don't want anyone to feel like you need to go buy luxury eyeshadow to get nice eyeshadow, because that is not the case. It was just one of those years where I was very curious and this is what I was trying. Ooh, I forgot there was one more thing I wanted to mention, but this is definitely just a side extra because it was immediately discontinued again, but I got the original Naked palette and I knew I was probably gonna like it, but I actually loved this. So if you have it in your collection, this is your reminder to pull out your Naked palette and use it. I think it is so good. And I think it would be smart of Urban Decay to bring it back permanently. I have one more product to mention that is not makeup. I actually meant to mention this at the beginning of the video. This is a leave-in conditioner from Bumble & Bumble. So this is the Hairdresser's Invisible Oil Heat and UV Protective Primer. Holy smokes. This kind of was a game changer for me. I very, very rarely find hair care favorites. The reason why this is so nice is because it does not make my hair limp and greasy. A lot of times I will try a leave-in conditioner and that is what it'll do. My hair is just so fine that if something is too conditioning, it's just too heavy. This is conditioning enough that I can notice a difference when I use it. It tames the flyaways, it makes my hair shiny, but it doesn't make it limp. You can see I'm almost out of it. When I run out of it, it will immediately go on my wish list to buy again. I have some other products I need to use up before I let myself buy this again, but this is better than any other leave-in conditioner I have ever tried. I love it. If you have fine hair, this is my top recommendation for you. Holy smokes, that was a lot. I am so interested to hear what your favorites were this year. If you tried anything that was really good, please let us know down in the comments. There's so much good makeup coming out. It is impossible to try everything. I feel like even influencers that get all of the PR, even they can't try everything. So I'm always interested to hear what people are trying, the things that are really good. So please share it down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. This is always where I share my tea of the day. Lately I've been drinking a lot of fancy tea. Today it's not fancy at all. Today I'm just drinking Bigelow Earl Grey. My tea got cold. That's okay, it's good cold too. Thank you so much for hanging out with me through this entire video, and thank you for hanging out with me all year. I'm looking forward to next year. I will see you guys very soon in the next one. Bye.